What's up, guys? Welcome to OK Automotive. My name is Holden, and I'm glad you're here. I was not prepared to make a video tonight, but there's something we need to talk about. So most people interested in JDM cars are already aware that Florida is kind of a hotbed of illegal imports, and they've kind of flown under the radar for quite some time. It seems like one dealership in Florida has finally caught the attention of Customs and Homeland Security and the Florida Department of Highway Safety. Unfortunately, this has resulted in about 400 cars not only losing their registration, but being blacklisted from ever being registered in the United States again. And so let's get into it. Let's talk about how that happened. Okay, I want to make a distinction here. I am going to talk about first some of the facts surrounding this situation, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the rumors surrounding the situation, and I don't want to get those mixed up at all. So first, I just want to kind of get into the facts and what we know, and so that's what we'll start with here. Okay, so we're going to start with the State of Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles written order of emergency suspension of license for this dealership. This was published by gentlemanracer.com, or that's where I found it. But this is the order of suspension from the Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. I'm not going to read it all. I am going to link it, but we're going to talk about what's especially relevant here. So, first paragraph is just that they order the emergency suspension of license, immediately suspending independent motor vehicle dealer license and the license number issued to Soho Alliance LLC, Soho Imports, and then they've got their business address there. I'm not going to blur it out because I'm going to link this document anyways. This order is based on the determination that the continued operation of Soho Alliance under the authority of independent motor vehicle dealer license and number constitutes an immediate serious danger to the public welfare and requires emergency action. This determination is based on the following findings of fact and conclusion of law. Okay, so now we're in the findings of fact. I'm going to skim through this here, kind of hit the highlights. So, let's see. So between the dates of November 1st, 2014 and October 18th, 2020, Soho applied for and received 348 Florida certificates of title for motor vehicles imported to the United States. And then we see that prior to the issuance of these Florida certificates of title, let's see, none of these 348 vehicles had been titled in the state. So basically this is just saying that all of these vehicles were being titled for the first time in Florida, which makes sense because they are an importer. These vehicles are being imported. Okay, and then Part 8, between the dates of November 1st, 2014 and October 18th, 2020. In application for the Florida Certificates of Title, Soho did submit to the Department of Supporting Documentation Form HSMV 84044. I looked for this form on the HSMV website. I couldn't find it. I assume it's some kind of application of title. But it said, this is the important part, in which respondent did use a false or fictitious name, give a false or fictitious address, or make any false statement in any application or affidavit required under the provision of Chapter 319. So essentially, what they're saying is that this was fraud, that some of the titles or all of the titles were filled out fraudulently, were filed for fraudulently. What exactly that fraudulent information was on the titles is kind of the subject of some rumor. And so I'm not going to say anything for sure other than they were committing fraud in titling vehicles. Okay, so the rest of this is essentially just saying that Soho is now losing their dealer license, which makes sense given that they were committing fraud on their vehicle titling. Okay, so this next part's really the important part. This was posted on Illumistatics Instagram page, just kind of covering the subject. Illumistatic is a company that does lighting for a lot of JDM cars, and so this was relevant to them. But this is allegedly the notice that these owners are getting who bought any vehicle from Soho. To whom it may concern, the Florida Highway Patrol's Bureau of Criminal Investigations and Intelligence concluded an investigation resulting in approximately 400 vehicle titles being canceled or revoked in Florida. The investigation primarily involved the business Soho Alliance LLC, Soho Imports LLC, and J-Spec Garage LLC, amongst others. The investigation's primary focus was on the fraudulent applications for titles in the state of Florida. Let me specify something here. It mentions J-Spec Garage LLC. If you search J-Spec Garage LLC, there are like 5 different J-Spec garages. And so if you start looking for these businesses, first of all, don't. They've already deleted their social medias. That's all gone. But you will find J-Spec garages. Probably not the same people. There are several J-Spec garages. Anyways, continuing. The Florida Highway Patrol, under the Division of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, is limited to the jurisdiction of Florida and enforcing Florida state statutes. The investigation identified fraudulent applications for Florida titles with supporting vehicle importation documents, suggesting that maybe the importation documents were the fraudulent component. The United States Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection Division maintains records based on federal laws and agency policies. The Florida Highway Patrol does not have access to importation records, nor the ability to authenticate importation documents. And so you can kind of see the implication there. Subsequently, all vehicles identified in this investigation that have obtained fraudulent Florida titles will be ineligible for titling in Florida, regardless of any corrective measures taken. Furthermore, the United States Department of Homeland Security has notified the Florida Highway Patrol that all vehicles in this investigation that have had a Florida title canceled or revoked have been placed on a contraband list and would be ineligible for a title registration in any state. The Florida Highway Patrol does not maintain record of this list, nor have the ability to alter, update, modify. Some options available, if you're one of the people that has one of these vehicles, may include exporting the vehicle out of the country, maintaining the vehicle as property in a non-operating status, or surrendering the vehicle to the nearest port of entry where it will be seized as contraband by the Department of Homeland Security. Not sure why you would do that if you could export it and at least get some of your money back. But the Florida Highway Patrol nor the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles regulate the exporting of vehicles. Please contact the United States Customs and Border Protection at the port of entry nearest you for instruction on exporting the vehicle if you choose this method. So essentially what we're seeing here is that if you owned any vehicle involved in this investigation, you're essentially blacklisted from ever registering the vehicle in the United States. It is classified as contraband by the DHS and Border Patrol, and you've either got to export it, turn it into a lawn ornament, or surrender it to Customs as contraband. Now, it is worth saying that we know that Soho Alliance LLC did bring cars into the United States that were not federally legal yet. And for anybody who doesn't know, for a car to be brought into the United States legally, it has to both be exempt from EPA regulation, which means that it has to be 21 years old, and NHTSA regulation, which is 25 years old. So essentially, to bring a car into the United States, cars have to be 25 years old. It's kind of well known across the JDM car scene that Florida is a little more lenient in their registering of cars, and so if you want to bring in what's essentially contraband, a car that is less than 25 years old, then generally you can apply for a title in the state of Florida and get it. Okay, so here's where this all really sucks. I mean, obviously there are a bunch of cars getting blacklisted. That sucks, but you would imagine that, if a car is here illegally, Customs is going to blacklist it and say, no, you cannot register it. Unfortunately, it seems to go beyond that. If you go back to the notice of suspension of license that we were talking about earlier, there is at the very end of it an attachment that has a list of banned VIN numbers. And the tough thing is that these VIN numbers don't all come back to cars that it makes sense to ban. They essentially went through the entire list of cars that Soho has ever applied for titling for. So, I mean, yeah, if I'm going through, somebody kind of tallied them up on Facebook. By the way, there's a Facebook group. I got screwed by shady JDM importers. It's if you're considering buying a JDM car, it's worth checking out there. But so this list included 27 R34 non-GTR Skylines, 27 Supras, JZ80 Supras, 25 R34 GTRs, 25 S15 Silvias. There were 15 JZX 100s, which is like the Cresta Chaser kind of Toyotas. DC2 Integras, there were 13 of them. So these are the cars that you kind of expect to see on there. But then what really sucks is you look through here and you see a lot of cars that were probably brought over of legal age and purchased of legal age. You know, you see the Nissan PALs and GTIRs and R32 Skylines and R32 GTRs. And it hurts to know that a lot of these owners probably purchased this car and they thought they did everything right. They bought a car that was of legal age and had paperwork to show and had a title already. When you buy those cars, you don't really expect to hear that your car is contraband and your car is an issue with customs. Those people were not consciously breaking the law, and I have so much sympathy for them. I mean, think about the Nissan PAL on this list for a minute. Think about the type of person who buys a Nissan PAL. If you drive a Nissan PAL, you have probably never broken a law in your life. You probably feel guilty for a week if you've broken the speed limit. And all of a sudden you're getting a letter from Customs saying that you're in possession of contraband, or I guess rather the Florida Department of Motor Vehicles, saying that your registration's been revoked and that you should turn your car in, surrender your car to Customs. That's insane. So just to give you an idea of what some of these owners are going through, here's a Facebook post from a guy who has a looks like an R32 GTST, and he says, "My title's gone, awesome. Long story short, I'm just trying to see what the value of the car would be without a title. Basically selling as a racer track car only. I do have proof of ownership, obviously, and can do a notarized bill of sale located in Central Florida." So just another guy who's essentially found out that he's got a car that he probably thought was completely legal that now he can't do anything with. And on a post about this car, a previous owner also chimed in. He said, "Yes, I owned this car and a couple people before it. This could have happened to any of us while we were in possession of it, and we had zero idea. It was brought over legally. It was 25 years old. It was brought over by the importers listed in the paper." So this is where we kind of get into a little bit of hearsay. But that importer was cutting corners as well as bringing non-Fed legal cars. We know that was true. This is the part where it's kind of rumor, as well as reusing VIN numbers from legal cars on illegal cars. And he says this is why they got caught. So I will say I looked through the VIN numbers on the notice of loss of dealer license, and just as a quick skim, I didn't see any repeated VIN numbers, but I've not looked over it super closely, so they could be on there. But that really goes to show him talking about the fact that he had bought the car and it had passed through several owners into the previous owner, who's now the one caught with it. It really just kind of goes to show that how this could be diluted. Like, it's if you buy a car from a shady dealer, you still thought you bought a legal car, but you did buy a car from a shady dealer. Not that that's really a awful thing. But the fact that you could get screwed from buying a car from a guy who bought it 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 from a shady dealer, that's scary. And so there's a couple morals to the story here, I guess. First of all, there seems to be a binary on JDM car forums. On one hand, when it comes to these illegal cars, on one hand you have guys that'll brag about their car online and they'll say, "Hey, I've got a state title. My car is titled. My car is registered." And in a lot of cases, they are registered as exactly what they are. You can buy a 2000 Skyline and register it as a 2000 Skyline, and most of the time nobody cares. And so those guys a lot of times think they're in the clear. But what's worse is that they'll sell the car with that. So they'll say, look, like, I know that it's federally illegal, but I've got a registration, I've got a title. So if you buy the car, nothing's ever going to happen to you. And there's just this overconfidence there. And then on the other end, you've got these people saying, oh no, don't buy an illegal car. If you get caught with it, the government's going to seize your car and crush it and throw you in jail and fine you. And we're kind of getting for the first time in a long time, a glimpse of reality of what the situation actually looks like. And so first of all, that first guy that is very overconfident about his safety and having the illegal car, we now know that if it doesn't matter what paperwork you have, if that importer who brought it in ever gets caught, then they've got your VIN number. It doesn't matter how many times it changed hands. It doesn't matter how much paperwork you have. Unless you have re-VIN'd the car, which is its own crime, that car's never safe. You never have that guarantee. And so, it's not like you're rolling the dice on a $10,000 car here. If you're buying a GTST, a non-GTR Skyline, R34 is selling for $75,000, and to me, like, that's crazy that you're going to spend $75,000 on a roll of the dice. Yeah, the odds of this happening to your importer are low, but they're still out there, and it's just crazy that you would put that much money on the line like that. Now, on the other end, this idea that the government's going to track you down and steal your car and crush it, we can see that that's not the case either. We can see that they were given options. There's this kind of idea that at least, they are not putting the fault on the consumer, even if the consumer is getting screwed in the end. All of the fault is definitely placed on the dealer here. Even if you've got a car that's illegal, you can kind of say, oh, well, it was titled, so I bought it, and so obviously I thought it was legal. You are given the option. You're not treated like a criminal. You are given the option to export the car, or surrender it, or keep it inoperable, which is ridiculous. So you are still getting screwed over, but we know that they're not going to come track you down, take your car, and crush it now. So it is nice to have a reality check, because I'm getting so sick of that argument back and forth between those two extremes. Now we know what will happen. So the other lesson here is to vet your importers. If you're buying a car directly from an importer, buy from a well-known, well-reviewed importer that there's no evidence that they're doing anything sketchy or bringing in illegal cars, because now we know that can kind of turn around to bite you. Even if you bought a legal car, you can get screwed by that, unfortunately, which sucks. It also kind of makes it a little scarier to buy an imported car private party. If you can kind of track the car down to figure out who originally brought it in, that's a really nice assurance too. Also, I'm going to link the list of VIN numbers in the description here. And so if you're buying a car that you're kind of, you think it might be on this list, you think it's possible that it could be one of these effective cars, maybe the seller tells you, hey, this car has a title issue or something else that might be a red flag for you, you're going to have the list of affected VINs right here, and so you can search the document just to make sure that the car you're buying is not on a blacklist. And that's going to be important going forward too, because the thing is, these VIN numbers are always going to be blacklisted. So that means if somebody buys one of these cars, if they export it and then they bring it back in when it is legal, sorry, the VIN number is still blacklisted, and eventually that's going to happen to somebody with one of these cars. So it's just a crappy situation. It sucks so much. I was really frustrated when I heard about this yesterday. I'm gonna end the video there, guys. Like and subscribe, I guess. I'll see you next time.